All right, so for our third video, we're going to talk about hip mobility. And when we talk about hip mobility, there's an awful lot of crossover with spinal mobility. Everything's connected. So we're going to start with pelvic rocking, and this is something that we would teach here in the studio. So again, if you have any pain whatsoever when you're doing this movement, stop, make it smaller. You should not have any pain when you do this, okay? So pelvic rocking is just simply laying on your back, and you're going to tip the pelvis forward and backward. And really what you're doing is just seeing what your range of motion is and seeing where you have pain and where you don't have pain with motion. So you tip the pelvis, push your back down towards the floor, and then go the other direction and think of arching your back off of the floor. So the hip bones roll up and roll towards the ribs, and then the hips roll away from the ribs to rock the other direction, okay? So once you've found both your directions, your happy place in the middle is what we call neutral. So neutral is essentially where your hip bones and your pubic bone are pretty level to the floor. So like you could take a glass of water and just balance it here on your pelvis. So the other exercises that we're going to do, some of them we're going to make sure that we're coming back to neutral or starting in neutral for each exercise. So the second one that we're going to do is just a hip open, okay, or a hip shift. So you're going to start in neutral, you're going to keep your shoulders down, and you're going to allow both legs to shift to one side, and then you're going to use your breath in your waist to pull you back to the middle. So you're going to inhale to shift, keeping the opposite shoulder down. You could even turn your head and look at the opposite hand, and it'll give you a little bit more mobility through the hips that way as well. And then use the breath to come back and find that neutral pelvis in the middle. So you can repeat that 5 to 8 times on either side. Then we're going to shift into doing what are called leg slides. So leg slides are staying in neutral with the pelvis, taking a nice deep breath in that neutral pelvis, and then as you exhale, just slowly allowing the leg to extend out. And you want to be able to maintain your neutral pelvis and keeping that glass balanced on your pelvis. If when you straighten out your leg, your back arches and your water tips, you need to make the movement smaller. Excuse me. So you want to make sure that you can keep this level, and that may mean when you first start that your leg doesn't extend all the way out, and that's perfectly fine. This is a progression. So some people that are very, very tight through their low backs don't have the control to extend the leg without arching the back. So you may start in a position like this and then slowly be getting to the point where you can extend the leg all the way out. So it's an inhale to extend the leg, and then an exhale to just pull it back up to the center afterwards. Then we're going to go into a leg or a hip release exercise. So this is an extension of leg slides. So for a hip release exercise, only one side is going to move. So this side of my body is going to stay pretty still. I'm going to inhale and open the leg out to the side, and then I'm going to extend that leg towards the wall. Then I'm going to turn in at my hip and pull the leg back up to where I started. And if I'm truly moving from my hip, what will happen is my leg will slide out like it's going down a balance beam, and when it pulls back up, it will end up in exactly the same place that it started from. If we lead with our feet, the leg will go out to the side and perhaps even cross over the other one as we come back up to the center. So you just want to allow this nice long bone in the hip to stir in the hip as you move, okay? You would do several one direction and then switch directions where you go in at the hip first and then pull around. So this is a great exercise for lubricating the hip joint and just providing extra mobility. Then we're going to fast forward into a piriformis movement. So this is a piriformis stretch plus just some release in there. So you can cross one ankle over top of the opposite knee, and you're actually going to rock. So you're going to let your body tip from one side to the other. And you may find that it's tighter going one direction, or when you put pressure on it on one side that it's a little more tender. So you're just going to allow this rocking to happen back and forth, again, pain-free range. And then you're going to allow yourself to tip completely. Doesn't matter if the opposite shoulder comes off in this one. You're gonna bring that foot right down onto the floor. And again, you can turn your head and you can look the opposite direction just to add a little bit more stretch through there. And then you're just going to twist yourself back to the center and switch to the other leg. For our mermaid movement, you're going to sit with one leg forward and one leg back. So for some people, this is not a comfortable position. You may have to sit on top of a pillow, let the leg come down in front of you, or this much bend in the knee just is not something that you can accommodate. So you may have to just let this leg sit in front of you. And that's perfectly fine as well. This is called a Z-sit. So as long as you're finding a place that's comfortable, you can gradually work your way into this position. You also want to eventually be able to get both your butt cheeks down onto the floor and be able to sit up nice and straight. So all you're going to do is find this position, and then you're going to inhale and turn one way, and then you're going to exhale and turn the other. You're just going to inhale and turn one way, and then exhale and turn the other. And you can do several. You can do 5 or 6 if it feels really good. And then you're just going to bend to the side, and then you're just going to bend to the other side, dropping the bottom shoulder out of your ear. Okay? And again, you can do this several times, each direction. And then you're going to switch legs and go to the other side. So you're going to find you have more range of motion on one side than the other. It's perfectly fine. It'll start to increase as you start mobilizing. The last one that we're going to do is just a lift. So you're going to go from this seated position. You're going to go from a sit to a lift, okay? And then you're going to control yourself to come back down. So again, there's lots of modifications for this exercise. If you need to use your hands and push yourself up, you can. If you need to grab onto a chair, push onto a chair and lift yourself up, you can do that as well. If you need to sit your bum up on something so you don't have to come down as far, you can do that as well, okay? Again, you can shift and come up onto the other leg in front if you need to. Okay, so it's just a great exercise for opening up the hip, getting the butt to start working and engaging, and to allow for just lots and lots of mobility through the hips altogether. So at this point, you should be able to start integrating some of those things together, making sure that you're putting your breath into every single movement that you do. You may not inhale when I was saying inhale or exhale, but as long as you're breathing and concentrating on that breath, you're going to see a difference and see some change. If you have questions, please let us know. You can get a hold of us at the studio at 780-808-4144, or you can visit our website and reach out at any time. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed them.